Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, January 15th, 2024. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. Warm welcome is extended to councillors, staff, delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether being physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. Speaking of remote connections, Councillor Blazek is feeling unwell and has generously offered not to share what she has with us. She has asked if she could participate remotely, and so I do have a resolution to that effect as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth permits Councillor Blazek's remote participation at the January 15th, 2024 Council meeting. Moved by Councillor Andreessen, seconded by Councillor Anstedt. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. We welcome then Councillor Blazek, who I believe is connected at this point. We begin now with the formal part of the meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers as able are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archived video. To those viewing this meeting via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the interruption or termination of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. This time I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. Let's move now to item 5 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with a potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol at this time, I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have submitted already in writing, that hasn't happened tonight, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to submit documentation to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. Colleagues, do any of you wish to make a declaration at this hour? Seeing no hands waving at me, my role as chair prompts me to manage the flow of proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda. Some, including Councillor Blazek, may be participating remotely by web conference, and it's my challenge to make sure we keep checking in with her. Should those who are remote wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk through the text chat function in the web conference software. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will advise. Let us now focus on the people's business. Part of that is achieved when those in the chamber silence and put away their phones. Regarding item 6 of our agenda, I have a motion before me for the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows. Open the book here. The agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Rothwell. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And we are waiting for... Okay, we have all 10, and that is carried. Thank you. Let's move forward from there to item 7 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant council's recognition and or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, or individual action may do so. There are 5 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular meeting. Colleagues, anything to extract here or any corrections that you have made note of to suggest for the minutes? I'm not seeing any hands raised at this point, so I have a motion for our consideration to receive these items and deal with the minutes as follows: that consent items 7.1 to 7.5 be received for information, and the minutes of the January 8th, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Deputy Mayor Callum, seconded by Councillor Nordham. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. I'm in favor. Councillor Anstedt records a manual in favor vote, and with that, the motion is carried. Thank you for that. Let's move to agenda item number 8. For the purpose of executing a public meeting under the Planning Act, I use my discretion as head of council to announce a recess lasting the duration of the public meeting. The public meeting will consider an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for land situated on Main Street East in Listowel Ward. We are now in recess. Let us turn to the formalities of the public meeting now. I call to order a public meeting to address a matter, an application made under the Planning Act. I welcome all those who are here for this public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the Listowel Ward official plan and the North Perth zoning bylaw. This is a statutory public meeting to deal with official plan amendment number 33 and an application for zoning bylaw amendment number ZBA-02-2021 by Argoloff Engineering and Development, Inc., affecting property owned by HAE Listowel, Inc., described as Plan 194, Part Lot J, RP 44R 4545, Part 1, Listowel Ward in the municipality of North Perth, 670 Main Street East. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered tonight by Council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comments concerning this application will be given the opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal Council's decision in this matter must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to Council. Those wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding this application must notify the clerk via email or telephone, giving their mailing address and telephone number. At this time, I will call for a summary of this application. This will be offered by Nathan Garland, who is a planner for the County of Perth who works on North Perth files. Welcome, Mr. Garland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of North Perth Council. So I do have a short presentation for you this evening just to go over the application. Just as we start, just for a summary, this is a continuation of an older file, so this is a second public meeting. There was previously one done. So this is just to bring both council and the members of the public up to speed on this application from where we were approximately December 2021, I believe, was the last report back to council. So just to bring everybody back up to speed. So the application is for an official plan amendment. So this is a listable official plan amendment and North Perth zoning bylaw amendment 02-2021. The owner and applicant is HAE Listable Inc., represented by Arloff Engineering as well. The plan location is Plan 194, Part Lot J, RP 44R 44 45 45, Part 1, listable ward in the municipality of North Perth. And so identified on the screen is just a starred property, just across from Elm Street along Main Street and listable. And then the subject property is noted by the star and the green boxes also. Next slide, please. So we thought it beneficial just to outline some of the surrounding property and area for this subject lot. So the location is directly adjacent to listable Chrysler. We've identified the listable high school just to the west there, right across from Elm Street and the Salvation Army, which is also there. And then Lafarge is a little bit further to the south. They have provided some comments tonight, so just including that location as well, just for your reference to the general proximity in the area. And it is on the east side of Listowel, just by the Ag Society field as well, too, please. Next slide. A bit of a description of the subject property. So this was the site plan that's provided. Right now, it's kind of a conceptual site plan, so they're working through the details. The property is for sale, I note, so there is some, I'll say, potential for a couple different options to come in, so they've provided to give themselves a few different options. The property is proposed to be a 3 to 4 story mixed-use commercial residential block. So the residential would be fronting along Main Street. Right now, they're currently proposing 4 commercial units in there. And then between 20 or 28 residential units kind of stacked on the rear side of the commercial units, and then also on the second, third, and fourth stories potentially. So just let yourself get, there's parking at the rear primarily, and then also parking directly adjacent to the subject property. Just a note too, they would have to go through some site plan approval requirements, so there's some buffering as well as some mitigation measures that they would be required to address as well too. Next slide, please. So the official plan amendment is outlined in blue. Currently, the official plan designates the property as highway commercial, so residential is not permitted there. The official plan amendment does request for residential to be located in this area. It is a bit of a transitional zone or mixed-use zone in Listowel, so there is some residential properties currently there. That's permitted to take place. Those are fine to have there. This is a request for a new build, therefore they're asking to have that residential component being brought into that use. The zoning bylaw as well is outlined through there, so those are a number of side yard, rear yard setbacks, as well as some of the height requirements, so they're looking to make it a little bit taller as well too, potentially. And then a reduction in the landscape open place, so that's currently the application and the request right now. Next slide, please. Just a couple of pictures from the main street there looking south towards the property. Currently they're housing a number of, I'll say, accessory structures or smaller buildings that typically fall below the building permit threshold size, so around the 150 square foot mark. Right now all those are temporary, there's no foundations there, they would be moved off, relocated off site. There is some, I'll say, historical contamination concerns. There is a record of site condition requirement as part of this development, or if there was to proceed, there would be a holding provision placed on there to restrict or require that in the future to make sure that's done. And next slide, please. So as part of the supporting information and study that was presented, there was an updated noise study done and completed in June of 2023. There is a site plan that's been updated as well too, just to divide some of the discrepancies and some of the interest that was shown previously. And then a small stormwater management brief and a functional servicing report. Those would be required to be updated as the site plan progresses forward if it was to be approved. So that's required to be finalized. Next slide, please. Public comments provided. I do note there was a couple of comments provided today as well too, so I may not have captured all of those in this discussion. Previously, Lafarge had provided comments. They've also provided some comments today. Primarily, they were concerned around the warning clauses should the application proceed. So as part of the review and requirement, there would be a requirement to have warning clauses put in the purchase and sale agreement, as well as some mitigation measures, such as air conditioning units, so that in the summertime, if they're busy, they can close their windows, the residents can close their windows and then operate comfortably still inside while still mitigating the outside. Previous comments provided by some of the, neighbors were around the parking, municipal services, traffic, setback, and design. I will note that Bill 23 does remove the design element from the provincial review now, so the province has taken that out of the site plan review process. Parking services, municipal services, traffic, those are still under the purview of review. Staff and agency comments, BM Ross did have a preliminary look. They are asking for a final and updated stormwater management plan to be submitted at the time of site plan. And then the Public Works was okay with the road access as well too. They have left-hand turn lane there. So there's a turn lane right in the middle. So it is like a 3-lane road through there. They do need a functional servicing report to deal with connection issues around the roadway through there too. So next slide, please, Sarah. So just a summary, Bill 23 did remove some of the design criteria for site plan approval, so that was removed from municipal review nowadays. Parking is not proposed to be reduced, so they're allowing for all on-site parking. There would be no reduction, or there would be no request for off-site parking, which was one of the concerns and then comments previously brought forward. The warning clause, as mentioned, this is to allow for air conditioning units being placed in there. So if they did have to have air conditioning, it's a centralized air conditioning unit is what they're proposing. So the units would have air conditioning. And then it is a note on the purchase and sale agreement so that when folks buy those units, if there's moves forward, that they're aware of that industrial use around that area. As noted as well too, the development would require a site plan approval. So this is not the final approval by any means. There still is that municipal site plan approval process, which would require to be implemented specifically through here. Next slide, please. It is my recommendation that North Perth Council receive the report dated January 15th, 2024, entitled List of Award Official Plan Amendment Number 33 and North Perth Zoning Bylaw Amendment 2-2021, which is submitted by HAE Inc., affecting lands described as Plan 194, Part Lot J, RP 44R 45, Part 1, List of Award, Municipality of North Perth, and that North Perth Council hold a statutory public meeting pursuant to Section 16 and 34 of the Planning Act, with respect to Official Plan Amendment Number 33, Zoning Bylaw Amendment 02-2021. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garland. At this point, I'm going to turn to the clerk's table, but you may need to supplement this and ask with both of you about the provision of information regarding notice of this public meeting. Let's go to Clerk Carter first. Let me get your microphone here.
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, notices inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on December 19th, 2023 by first-class mail to landowners within 120 meters of the subject property and emailed to all applicable agencies. The notice was posted on the website and on the subject property on December 19th, advising of the public meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anything to contribute to this one, Mr. Garland?
Nothing further this time.
Okay, now let's talk about correspondence, comments, and reports that have been received for this application. Clerk Carter, back to you.
Following the posting of this agenda, I was in receipt of 2 items of correspondence. The first from Lafarge Canada Incorporated, and the second from Nicole Greenan.
Okay, councillors have received this correspondence, I believe, by email today. Does any councillor wish the privilege of having these items read into the minutes, read into the record? Okay, everyone understands the comments that have been made then, all right. Thank you. So let's turn to the comment section of our meeting then. The opportunity is available for those who are gathered to offer comments on this application. First, I'll call for those who are in favor of the application other than the applicant. Are there any here who wish to avail themselves of that opportunity? Clerk Carter, are you aware of anyone online connected for this purpose?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Thank you. The opportunity is now available to those who may be opposed to this application to address the council and this public meeting. Anyone here with that intent? If you are, please come to the microphone. Clerk Carter, are we aware of anyone who's expressed an indication or wants to take advantage of this opportunity remotely?
I'm not aware of any.
Thank you. Do we have a representation from the applicant or the applicant's agent this evening? The clerk is indicating no by the shaking of her head. All right, colleagues, questions or comments that might be addressed by those who are here? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kasenberg, to Mr. Garland. You mentioned that the site plan would be later coming to the municipality. Can you remind me if that actually comes to council or if that is, it doesn't come to council? I wasn't sure if there's any changes to that yet.
Through the mayor, in response to Councillor Andreessen's question, the site plan applications do not come to council any further. They are a technical review, so they deal with servicing and what's approved in the zoning bylaw. So if there were concerns with setbacks, the height, etc., those are all dealt through the zoning, but all the technical components such as stormwater, building design, etc., does not come back to council any further.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd and Council. Thanks, Nathan, for your report. I'm just wondering if you could give any comment with respect to the submission that was made by Lafarge, received today, in terms of their suggested wording, as to whether or not there's issues or concerns with that, or if you need more time to review that. Thank you.
Through the mayor, in response to Councillor Rothwell's question, it did come in Friday. It would be a discussion with the proponent if they're willing to accept it, and that's part of the discussion because it does go through the site plan process. Looking at it, it gives kind of more of a specific to the Lafarge operation industry. Doesn't seem to be major red flags. At the same time, we would want to review it a little bit further with staff just to make sure there's nothing too outrageous in there or anything to that effect. But it looks like they're just trying to follow the process with some more specific wording that reflects their operation.
Yeah. And further, I understand that correspondence will be shared with the applicant, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Good, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anything in this file about odor? The neighborhood does have odor producers. Is there anything that should be noted specifically?
To your worship, nothing's come up as odor per se. It is within the residential, I guess the listable settlement area, so nothing really reflects it like an MDS or any kind of odor contributor. Sometimes within industrial development, I'm thinking other operations, there might be some kind of odor impact, but typically it's right next to the commercial operations, so nothing in there too outrageous beyond odor side of things for that intake. So,
okay, thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments at this point? All right, seeing none, notice of the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Yes, sorry. Go ahead. Yes. Is it pertaining to this matter? Sure, come forward. If you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Paul Buttinger. I'm the property owner at 754 Main Street, the Chrysler dealership. I just, for clarity, I just want to make sure that we've captured a stormwater management action in the area. And I'm sorry, because in the past, we've requested information from town staff about the actual location of a stormwater, and it might be pertinent to an adjoining property owner that may cross right over that. So I just want to make sure we capture the record to make sure, because it appears to be a stormwater plan may be somewhat below grade, and it may be a problem for us down the road. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Garland, actions here? Anything you want to note?
To your worship and members of council, I've noted it as an action item to follow up with engineering on that. That would be beyond my awareness. I'm not aware of a stormwater main or anything to that effect coming through the area, but we could absolutely follow up with them to see if they're aware of that. So
Okay.
if there is any modifications on site, it's typically on site surface only, but I don't know about below grade. So
Okay, thank you. And the gentleman who presented, he's sort of nodded his head, appreciating, I think, that you will include that into your considerations moving forward. All right. Any more questions? Okay. Notice of the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal in accordance with provisions of that Planning Act. And I will now adjourn this public meeting. That means it's time for us to return to our regular council meeting. At this point, we do have a resolution, as the planner has suggested. I think it's been modified slightly, Mr. Garland, to reflect our processes, but I'll read it into the record for our consideration as follows. That North Perth Council receives the report dated January 15th, 2024, entitled List to Award Official Plan Amendment Number 33 and North Perth Zoning Bylaw Amendment 2-2021, which was submitted by HAE Listwell Inc., affecting lands described as Plan 194, Part Lot J, RP 44R4545, Part 1, List to Award Municipality of North Perth, and that North Perth Council acknowledges that a statutory public meeting pursuant to sections 16 and 34 of the Planning Act was held with respect to Official Plan Amendment Number 33 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 02-2021 on January 15th, 2024. I think we should add that specific date in there for the purposes of the record. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. All right. Our agenda indicates that we're now going to entertain a delegation. I'll remind gently the delegate that in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, total time of 10 minutes is permitted, and that includes both presentation time and providing an opportunity as relevant for councillors to ask questions. Delegation is expected to present on the topic declared on the submitted request for delegation form. Deviations from the topic are generally not acceptable to the chair or to this council. We also remind of respect and courtesy, which inherently includes not using names of those who have not consented to such use. As item 8.2, we are joined by Mr. Warren Howard of the Alma Mornington Concerned Citizens, who has indicated that he wishes to address council about the announcement by the independent electricity system operator that it intends to procure and issue RFPs pertaining to the installation of wind turbines. Mr. Howard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Please, thank you for making time for me tonight. I'll go on to move quickly through this. Can we? No? Okay. For those who've been around for a while, this is not new news, but we've, in North Perth, have had an extensive experience with wind turbines. The largest was Invenergy's Conestoga project, which included 26 turbines. And it was terminated because they couldn't find enough qualified sites. After that one disappeared, we had WPD doing prospecting for sites for the Wallace Mapleton project, and it just failed to proceed. I'm not quite sure why. We have one wind turbine operating in the municipality, and it was originally Robus Wind. It's now Mapleton Wind, and it's owned by a cooperative from Kitchener. It's small, 500 kilowatts, so it's not a huge project or turbine. And just back in the days of the Invenergy's Conestoga project, this council declared North Perth to be an unwilling host for wind turbines. Oops, going the wrong way. Okay, so the Planning Act was amended in 2019. I keep repeating this because a lot of people don't know that it happened. Previously, the municipalities had no role in approving projects. We kind of provided input and it was ignored. Municipal support is now required for new projects. And changes to the Planning Act allow municipalities to pass zoning bylaws to control them, where they go, setbacks, all of those types of things. The province has not updated the setbacks for wind turbines since they were set out in 2009, and the number of complaints that have come in on those turbines suggests that they are a problem. So I'm back asking council to update the zoning bylaws. So the Ontario electrical system is already largely carbon-free, so this is not going to change our carbon emissions that much. Largely it's nuclear and hydro. The infamous coal plants were closed in 2014 when Bruce Nuclear came back online. And we have gas plants that are used for peak demand, particularly when the wind's not blowing. So it is not a big issue. The target is net zero, well, the Ontario government, OPG, the target is net zero by 2040, and they've certainly announced some expansion of nuclear plants to allow that to go forward. Should I skip a slide? Or my slides are out of order. Anyways, okay. There's a huge myth that wind turbines are the solution for climate change, when that's not really the situation. Generation from wind turbines is not aligned with peak demand. The peak output from wind turbines is at night and in spring and fall. The peak demand for the electrical system is in the daytime and summer and winter. And so you need to have backup for those, and generally that has been, to this point, fossil fuels. We now have storage options that are coming on stream, but they are limited in capacity. And so it's not going to make a huge change whether we add a whole pile of new wind turbines. So what the ISO announced, and this was on December the 13th, this has been floating around for 2 or 3 years. And after they did the storage units, they came back and said, okay, now we want to outline our plans for additional capacity. And that is a 3-phased RFP process, 1 in 25, 1 in 27, 1 in 29, 2,000 megawatts in the first one and 1,500 in the subsequent ones. What can qualify those for those RFPs? It's wind, solar, hydroelectric, storage, and bioenergy. So wind seems to be the popular thing. The situation in Perth County, the current official plan, which is in the process of being replaced, vehemently supports wind turbines, cites the economic benefits as they're great things. I think everybody on council disagrees with that. The new official plan, which I think is timing for approval summer, fall, the positive language on wind turbines are gone. It's largely silent. It protects prime agricultural land and limits energy things to online diversified use, which is defined as 1 hectare or 2% of the land area. Now, the details have to go into the zoning bylaw, and that's where the problems are. So I have suggested, and this actually goes back 2 years, for them on private farmland, a setback of 2,000 meters that protects everything, and it deals with both audible and low frequency noises. Establish setbacks from property lines of about 1,200 meters, which would impact the impact of turbine failure and ice throw, and establish setbacks from designated growth areas. So that's a new bylaw. So you can start getting municipal support requests this year, like anytime. There is prospecting going on for sites in various parts of the province. I haven't heard about any here, but they're out there. I think the official plan, the timeline for the official plan, the zoning bylaws is still, I would say, TBD. And so you might want to look at alternatives. You could defer all decisions until zoning is complete, or you could pass a blanket resolution of non-support. And I've given you 3 reasons there, that you haven't changed the setbacks. The enforcement coming out of the Ministry of Environment is not good. And the problems that I think we all know happen near wind turbines. So, in summary, the official document supports wind turbines. I'm thinking that there is insufficient time to complete the official plan changes and create zoning bylaws, and you probably need to do something as an interim measure. I'll end there. There's 2 more slides here, but they're just backup. I don't mean to show this. Questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Howard. Colleagues, questions for Mr. Howard about his information presented? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you to Mr. Howard for addressing us this evening. I'm just wondering about the context of the bylaws and the changes. Do you think that it would be powerful enough or sufficient enough as a local municipality to pass these bylaws, or do you believe it's a Perth County approach? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, that would be, my response would be whatever the process is that puts in the zoning bylaws. Municipalities have the authority to pass zoning bylaws dealing with wind turbines, and they cannot be sued for passing those bylaws. That's essentially what the Planning Act says, as I understand it. So if that's, probably it's a combination of Perth County and local, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with questions or comments at this point? Councillor Blazek? Okay, Councillor Blazek, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, I hope you guys can hear me. I apologize for my voice today. Thank you, Mr. Howard, for your presentation. And I just wanted to make it known that I would very much support a resolution that makes it clear that North Perth is an unwelcome host of wind turbines amidst our prime agricultural land.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blazek. Anyone else with comments or questions at this point? Councillor Rothwell, let me get your microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Warren, for your presentation. Again, as you said, you've made your presentation previously, and is your intent to provide a similar presentation to all local municipalities as well as to the county in terms of the new official plan and its context? I mean, you've given some comments in your slides, but is your intent to provide county council?
At least I will go to Perth East, and then after that I end up at Perth County, I think. And I think there's similar views in West Perth, as I understand it, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's not all one bylaw, is it?
No.
So,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with a question? Okay, Councillor Andreessen, is a question or comment?
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, perhaps either you or Mr. Snell could provide some ideas about our next steps that we could help move forward with some resolutions or bylaws. Thank you.
I was going to suggest, and I was going to ask Council what your will is here, but I was going to suggest that we request a report from staff about our options and information about Ontario's energy system. I did bring tonight, just for Mr. Howard's benefit, I don't know if all of my colleagues have seen this, but certainly Ontario has released a plan, and it's actually interesting reading. So I think that perhaps if staff could be commissioned to create a report, they would probably reference some of Ontario's plans as well in the context of this issue. Mr. Howard, you look like you're itching to say something.
Well, I was just going to say that in case you wanted to do a resolution, I did draft a quickie I could circulate for future consideration.
Okay, my suggestion, if my colleagues take it, is that we consider asking or directing staff to create a report on our options here. And Mr. Howard, I think one of the approaches to this is to input to staff through the CAO, probably your suggestions and comments on this one. Councillor Rothwell, you have your hands.
No, I was getting ready to second the resolution that
Towards the
motion
report.
would come forward. So
Direct staff to prepare a report on various actions related to wind turbines, and moved by Councillor Rothwell.
There's been some proposals for potential solar farms as well. So could we add that to the report to look into ways that we could prevent that as well as wind turbines?
I'd be cautious about the word prevent. I think we should let staff bring forward a recommendation on how we proceed generally. Yep. It may be that there needs to be more public discussion about this as well in our community. But at this point, I think let's watch that word, if I might make a gentle suggestion.
Yes, yep. The correct is to regulate it very closely.
Okay. CEO Snell, are you comfortable that we've got enough in that to support your directing appropriate people in the organization towards this end?
Yes, we'll certainly rely on some of the help from the county planning staff to look at some of the issues, because it is intertwined with planning, but we'll bring back a report in the near future.
Okay, thank you. And of course, among the things to be considered is as Mr. Howard has pointed out, relative silence of the new official plan on this topic. So perhaps we should ask questions. Mr. Howard, I'll also remind that as the new official plan rolls into circulation in the community for comments, there's an opportunity for you to bring the concerns of you and your friends in this group to that process.
Yeah, I think there's nothing, my comment about the silence of the official plan was not a criticism. That's appropriate.
Fair. I just wanted to make sure you're aware, and I'm sure you are, of that opportunity. All right, so we have this moved, I think, by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Resolution to some effect that directs staff towards the production of a report regarding both wind turbines and solar panels, I believe, to support. Go ahead, Councillor.
Maybe large area solar panels, like just a single solar panel here or there, or regulation of solar panels.
I think that the staff will figure out the intent and interpret according to how they perceive the availability of the products and solutions that are in the market. All right, thank you. All right, to move in seconded discussion or debate further on this one? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so let's have a vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Thank you, Council, for expressing an approach here. That brings us to item 9, reports from departments and key staff. We have an item tonight from the Development and Protective Services Department. As item 9.1.1 on our agenda, the Planning Department of Perth County will introduce us to the draft of the proposed new official plan for Perth County. We are joined by County Senior Planner Susanna Reid, who will share with us new OP insight and explain the process of consultation, which happens from here. Ms. Reid, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Kasenberg, and good evening, Council. It's my pleasure to be here tonight with the draft official plan, which Council has received in your package. both the official plan and the mapping. So the official plan is brought to council tonight. We are taking the official plan. The planning department is attending all of the council meetings with the draft official plan, and it's being brought to North Perth Council for your information. This is the beginning of the public consultation process, having received direction from Perth County Council on December 21st to forward the official plan to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and begin the public consultation. So I've prepared a presentation to review the official plan at a high level, and I'll do so now, and then we can discuss it afterwards. But so here is the presentation overview. I'm touching base on the planning policies and the legislative authority that informs the official plan. And then the background studies that were completed in advance of the official plan being drafted. And then I will walk through the text of the document and finally touch base on the open houses. And the dates for the open houses are in your council package as well. So the Planning Act provides the legislative authority for all municipalities in Ontario to draft official plans, and the Planning Act also speaks to the provincial policy statement. The provincial policy statement then is the overarching policy document that the province prepares to inform all official plan documents and direction. In Perth County, we have a county official plan, and then there are also 3 municipal official plans for the Listowel, Mitchell, and Milverton settlement area. So with the new official plan, this will replace the county official plan, and then we will also see the Listowel, Mitchell, and Milverton official plans repealed, and there'll be one document for all of the municipalities, for all of the county, all of the local municipalities. There are 3 background documents of note. This project has been underway for some time, starting in 2018. So there was a natural heritage system study prepared by Upper Thames River Conservation Authority that was produced initially in 2018 and then updated in 2019 with new air photos. That informs the natural environment designations. WSP is the planning consultant that was engaged to draft the official plan, and they prepared a policy directions report that was informed by focus groups and public meetings across the county, as well as summarizing the policies in the PPS and the current official plans, identifying the policy revisions that were required. And then there was a third piece of work, which is the comprehensive review, also required by the PPS, the provincial policy statement. And there was a first comprehensive review that was adopted by County Council in 2020, just at the beginning of the pandemic. And then with the demographic changes as a result of the pandemic and the increased population that was coming from urban Ontario, County Council provided direction to update the comprehensive review to determine, review again the population projections and employment projections for a 30-year planning horizon, and then identifying the land needs for a 25-year planning horizon as required by the PPS. So that all 3 of these documents inform the work of the planning department and WSP in drafting the policies and the mapping. So just showing you some of the mapping. I'm sure you've had time to look at the maps in your package tonight. But here is both the Schedule B, or the land use designations, on the left for all of North Perth, and then on the right, the land use designations for Listowel. And I'll show you these in more detail as we go through, but the mapping relates to the policies in the document. So for every designation, every different color on the map, there is a suite of policies that informs how that designation, that type of land will be developed, both within settlement areas and the agricultural and rural areas. So section 1 is the introduction section and outlines Perth County profile. the geography, demographics, and the local municipal profiles. And then it also offers the projection for the county that was provided by the Watson and Associates Comprehensive Review, that while the population is 42,100 in 2021, that we're anticipating a population of 62,900 by 2051, the 30-year planning horizon. The vision comes from the WSP work, a safe, healthy, and inclusive community that provides opportunities for people of all ages to live and thrive, a place that cultivates and sustains a vibrant local economy that is rooted in a strong agricultural identity and an entrepreneurial spirit. And that this vision is sets out the policy frameworks that are in the document. Section 2 are the growth management and settlement area categories. So the growth management policies include a number of monitoring policies that provide both the local municipalities and the county with the policy authority to track growth over the planning horizon and offer reports to council with regards to the amount of land that is being used, as well as intensification, progress on intensification goals. And there is also policies in the section to prepare master servicing plans for the service settlement areas. The section 2 also has residential density targets. This also comes from the comprehensive review from the Watson Associates work, and there was discussion about these targets at the County Council meeting on December 21st. So the department will be doing more work on this through the consultation process. The targets are 52% low density, 31% medium density, 17% high density or apartment buildings. And then the intensification targets also are from the comprehensive review, that 10% of all new residential development will be through intensification and a minimum of 5% of employment intensification on employment lands, and that these goals would be evaluated every 3 to 5 years. That's the important thing, that we're like regularly checking in to see, okay, we are working with the development, municipalities working with the development community to increase the amount of development on the existing developed residential and employment lands. How is this going? You know, like, is this being well received by the development community, and we're able to move towards these goals? Moving on, then in section 2.4, this outlines the settlement area categories, which are on the screen now. So the serviced urban areas are Listowel, Mitchell, Milverton, Atwood, and Shakespeare. The areas that have municipal sewage, water, and stormwater management. Then village and hamlets are 2 different designations, and are both of all of those communities are either completely village or completely hamlet. And development in villages and hamlets proceeds by zoning bylaw amendment. Rural clusters is replacing the existing infill designations, which are established clusters of usually residential development, which is a historic use in the landscape. And then the urban fringe designation is an existing designation in the county official plan. So in many cases where the urban fringe lands were brought into the service settlement areas, the designation changed to be either employment or corridor commercial or neighborhood, whatever the type of development that was anticipated in that area. The only place where the urban fringe designation remains is adjacent to St. Mary's and Stratford. So here then are the land use policies. So this is a substantive policy section of the official plan, and I'll walk through these sections quickly to give you a sense of the policy direction. So again, back to Listowel. Each one of these colors on the Listowel map represents a different designation. So the legend is there on the left-hand side of the map. The yellow is a neighborhood designation. The light purple and mauve color is the employment designation. The purple color, darker purple, is corridor commercial. And then downtown, the pink with white lines through it is an urban mixed-use designation. The dark green is a recreational designation. You see it on the golf course. And the orange is an institutional designation. And then there's a lighter green open space designation with dots on it. And then the other light green is the natural environment designation. So here's the policy framework for service-driven areas. Neighborhood, again, is the yellow area, replaces the residential designation. And what the policies do is it offers more flexibility for the existing residential communities, which allows local commercial as well as localized institutional uses. So if somebody was developing or redeveloping a residential community and wanted to place a corner store in that area, that would be permitted without an official plan amendment. The neighborhood designation would permit local commercial use. The urban mixed use is in the downtown core, and in urban mixed use, it recognizes that this protects the downtown core as an important commercial hub, and also permits residential development above or behind the storefronts. The corridor commercial replaces the highway commercial designation in the current official plan, and in that designation, it permits large-scale commercial uses for the larger than what would be contemplated in the downtown area, as well as commercial uses for the traveling public. We have also, the policies have also in the corridor commercial section permit high-density residential uses. So the type of development that we've recently seen or applications that we've seen on Mitchell Road South could be entertained in the corridor commercial designation. The employment designation replaces the current industrial designation, institutional. You also see an open space or the parkland designations. Here on the left is a map of one of the villages in North Perth, Gowanstown. And you can see all of the pink is the village designation, and as I mentioned, that permits residential, commercial, or Class 1 or 2 industrial uses through a zoning bylaw amendment. On the right is the map of the Schedule B for North Perth. And if I could just click one more time, I think. Yes, so the hamlets are similar to the villages. We don't have broken out mapping for each one of the hamlets, so they're included in the larger Schedule B. And then the rural clusters are difficult to see on the screen, but they look like asterisks, and they are throughout the community. So the rural cluster policies recognize and permit the existing residential uses and don't permit any additional development in those areas. So moving on to the agricultural policies, section 3.5. These policies largely echo the existing agricultural uses. In the current policy framework and the official plan, secondary farm occupations are discussed and permitted. In the new provincial policy statement, or sometimes since, 2014 PBS, I think, secondary farm occupations are now referred to as on-farm diversified uses. I think you've had a couple of applications recently, so council will be conversant with the type of planning issues that are relevant for on-farm diversified uses. The other types of uses are agricultural-related uses, so that's commercial or industrial agricultural uses such as feed mills or farm machinery dealerships. And then, of course, agricultural uses. And this is a critical importance of the Perth County official plan, both as it is and as it's proposed in the draft new official plan, to protect agricultural land for agricultural purposes. The policies recognize existing recreational and institutional uses in the agricultural landscape and generally don't permit any new recreational or institutional uses. And there are policies that allow existing undersized lots of record to be used for residential purposes through a zoning bylaw amendment. And as I mentioned, non-farm agricultural uses directed to settlement areas. Moving on then to section 3.6, the mineral aggregates and petroleum resources policies. The official plan designates existing mineral aggregate operations that have aggregate licenses. The map that's on the screen now is Appendix 1, which is the ARIP mapping, the Agricultural Resources Inventory paper mapping that's provided by the Ministry of Natural Resources. This mapping was prepared in 2013 by the MNR, and this informs is information that identifies where there are primary and secondary aggregate resources in the county. And new aggregate resources require an official plan amendment. The natural environment policies framework is informed, as I mentioned, by the Natural Environment System Study. So this document was received by County Council, and then through the leadership of Sally McMullen, there has been extensive consultation. I'm guessing that Council is familiar with that. From October 2022 to October 2023, there were postcards sent in October 2022 to people where the natural environment designation was proposed to change on their property, and those who wanted received a visit from a planner at our department. Following that, there was an ecologist was available to, a consulting ecologist was available to visit sites if the landowners were interested. So there has been an extensive review of the natural environment designations, very thorough, where there were natural environment features shown on the mapping and had been removed for some reason. The maps were revised and the natural environment designations were corrected. The other significant change was in the Perth Natural Heritage System Study, the mapping prepared by the Conservation Authority. Meadows and thickets were identified as part of the Natural Heritage System. And while the department recognizes that meadows and thickets are part of the Natural Heritage System, they're not explicitly recognized by the PPS or stated by the PPS as being part of a characteristic to be mapped at the OP level. So as a result of the public consultation, the meadows and thickets have been removed. And there are two designations in the natural environment policies. So the natural environment features, which include woodlots and locally significant wetlands. And then the natural environment PSWs, provincially significant wetlands. So where there are PSWs that is identified by the PPS as being a no development area, and those are darker green areas on the map. I'm not sure. I don't think there are any in North Perth. Maybe there's one. So then moving from the policies to the land use designation policies, these are now county-wide policies that are not explicitly affiliated with a specific designation. There are economic development policies, housing policies, community services and facility policies, parks and open space, natural and human-made hazards, cultural heritage, transportation and infrastructure, and servicing, and urban design and built form. So I'm proposing to touch base on 4.2, the housing, because the housing crisis is so topical and front of mind for all of us. And then for the natural hazards, as it's received a lot of discussion at the steering committee in preparation to get to this point. So the housing policies include housing targets. And I think having this chart in the official plan is helpful information for the municipalities, all the development community, and the community broadly. This comes from the work that was done for the housing needs assessment in order to prepare for the Housing Accessibility Fund grant application. So what it does is it defines by income level how many housing units are required. So you can see if you look to the total at the bottom, the combination of both rental housing and and ownership housing, that there's a need over a 10-year horizon from 2023 to 2033, a need for 3,200 units. And then we can see by the income level, how many housing units are required by low-income families, mid and middle and upper income households. The policies then, housing policies include affordable market housing policies, non-market affordable housing, and additional residential unit policies. So in making a differentiation between non-market affordable housing, essentially what the official plan is doing is it identifies that housing for low-income households perhaps is beyond what is possible for the development community to address. And in doing so, the official plan provides direction for affordable housing that would be built by not-for-profit or municipal developers or some scheme that is outside of the development community. The policies then continue to have non-market affordable housing. So this provides a target of 20% of all. I'm going back and forth. Sorry. The target for the development community, so that would be the affordable market housing, is 20%. So what the official plan sets a target for residential developers to for 20% of new residential development to be affordable. And then when we go back to the housing market study to define what is affordable. I think the other big takeaway that I noticed while preparing these policies is that rental housing is more accessible for low-income families than ownership. So that is another direction that the policies offer for affordable market housing, that the development community be putting their minds to how rental housing can be a priority. The housing policies also speak to additional residential units, and as we know, this is something that the Planning Act has legislated, that there's a requirement now that the zoning bylaws where residential uses are permitted in serviced urban areas, that the Planning Act, that the municipality, or that there is no provision to stop or 2 residential units being built on every residential property, and these policies are echoed in the draft official plan. So moving to the natural hazards, natural hazards are lands where there is generally an erosion or a flood risk, and there is one approach in the official plan for land within settlement areas, so that's serviced urban areas, hamlets, villages. And that is to designate floodplains with a floodplain designation. So you can see in Listowel that blue area that goes through Listowel along the river is a floodplain designation. So that mapping comes from the Conservation Authority, and I understand that this is something that Maitland Valley is working on now, updating that mapping, so that updated mapping would be reflected in an amendment to the floodplain designation in downtown Listowel. So within that area, there currently is in the North Perth zoning bylaws a floodplain zone, and this floodplain designation would continue to inform a floodplain zone in that area. Outside of the and this is the same in all of the settlement areas, so serviced urban areas, villages, and hamlets. Outside of the serviced urban areas, we refer to the appendix on the right, which has both the Conservation Authority watersheds and the Conservation Authority regulated lands. So the policies for the areas outside of the serviced urban areas refer to this appendix and state that where land is or where land within a Conservation Authority regulated area is proposed to be developed, that a Conservation Authority permit is required. And that concludes the review of the policies that I have prepared. Here are the dates for the upcoming open houses. So in North Perth, February 8th at the Steve Kerr Memorial Center. And the open house, people are welcome, of course, to attend any of the meetings across the county. It will start at 4:30 and end at 8:30, and there'll be a presentation with regards to the document at 5:30. So people can drop in anytime, ask questions. We'll have maps, planning staff available to answer questions and offer any comments. Thanks. I'm available for questions if council.
All right, thank you very much. It is a big read, colleagues. It is a big read. I have certainly had the privilege of being involved more intimately than most over a 5-year period now. So I'm still finding little nuances, but certainly I think at this stage we are looking for merely top-level concerns or questions that you have, drilling into the details, which actually happened a little bit at County Council, probably isn't all that productive on this occasion. We can have a specific meeting, and we will have a specific meeting down the road, wherein we can address details at the nitty-gritty, actual text, change these words kind of approach. So at this point, I think what I'm going to invite is general questions or earliest comments, but let's keep it pretty top level. Colleagues, anyone wishing to ask some questions here? Councillor Norton.
Thanks through you, Mayor Kaseberg, and thanks for the presentation. Certainly is a big file. I seen that there was a picture with the MDSs, so minimum distance standards. So the business to the north, the cattle stockyard, is there no MDSs whatsoever for that? Like I know there's manure storage and whatnot. Does that affect zonings for residential versus industrial, or yeah, more or less?
Through the mayor. So the question is, does the MDS apply to cattle operations? Is that the question?
More listable livestock. So that's
This
an
one?
auction
Okay.
yard for.
Okay. Is it the auction yard is within the settlement area? Is it? Is it with?
It's right beside.
Do you want to take the question?
I'm seeing staff conferring privately in the gallery here. It looks like CAO Snell wants to weigh in. So CAO Snell, you can take a crack at this one.
So my understanding from that particular property is, and the owners, it came up during the master plan review, is that facility, because there's not permanent livestock housing there, it does not have an MDS factor.
Does it also affect it with manure storage? I know they do have somewhat of a facility there for manure, so does that affect our MDSs for residential?
Okay, it looks like we're going to be joined by Mr. Garland for this one.
Through the mayor, my apologies. We have had follow-up discussions with the owner of the listable livestock facility, so he has reached out specifically on the couple of applications that have been submitted. So we did ask him to provide a little bit of an outline of his operation about overnight accommodations, what's going on there, storage, etc. So we'd have to go through the MDS guidelines in specific detail to actually see how they are evaluated specifically. So we are looking into it, but don't have an answer for you tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else with questions, comments? Councillor Andries.
Yes, through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you for your presentation this evening. It's been a long-awaited official plan, so it's good to see it out front now. One of my comments is I just want to, celebrate the fact that I think that it's going to be reviewed on a more ongoing basis, which I think is going to be really important. I feel like it hasn't had that kind of timely review over the last number of decades, and I think this new approach would be really good. When I took a look at the requirements for municipalities in terms of projected growth, I believe that there'll be some homework for us as our municipality moving forward. I noticed that, we would need to prepare our own master infrastructure service plan for a 25-year planning horizon. So that will mean some homework on our part to get ready for that. And that we would also be required to have infrastructure and public servicing facilities for a 15-year minimum projected growth. So again, that might be some homework. So would that be something over time our staff would be coming to us about in terms of our next steps as a municipality for available lands, that kind of thing?
I'll call on either CAO Snell or Mr. Hackett's with us too. Perhaps he has some insight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have already started that process with the master servicing plan. So really that plan was to begin that process to understand from a wastewater, and stormwater standpoint, what would it take to service the growth identified through the official plan and beyond. Because it's infrastructure lasts hundreds of years. We have to make sure we get it right when we put it on the ground the first time, if we can.
And I'll offer that, of course, given the fairly meteoric growth that we have seen and that remains projected for us, that it represents a lot of work. You're quite right, and so we will move forward on internal plans at North Perth, given the kind of housing demand that we're seeing in the province.
Just and the last comment, if you don't think that's possible. Knowing that our own municipal lands are, we don't have as much land as we used to, and for growth to continue, what would be our next steps for growth, given the fact that, how possible is intensification in North Perth? What is available in terms of lands and moving forward with growth without continuing to access agricultural lands. So, looking at what are the other possibilities for growth here instead.
Okay, CEO Snell, do you want to offer comment on this?
So certainly this has been a discussion that that's captivated our attention since we started looking at the mapping and the growth projections provided by Watson's. So of course, the official plan does identify both new residential and employment lands in the draft. I didn't bring my numbers with me tonight, but the identified lands did not actually completely satisfy our 25-year time horizon in North Perth. That was partially done for two reasons. One, it was kind of your first part of your comments was regarding servicing and infrastructure. And second of all, we wanted to actually make sure in North Perth that we are trying to maximize the use of our land as much as possible. It'll be a challenge to meet our 25-year growth plan with the identified land, but I think that's a challenge that hopefully staff and future councils can try and achieve through greater intensification.
I think if I may offer additional comment, there's a little bit of shaping that has gone on in terms of where the growth will happen in Perth County through this official plan. And I think that it's fair to say that while the projections from the economists would suggest that the lion's share of the growth would happen in North Perth, we've created something of a plan that will push some of that growth demand to other municipalities in the county. Fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And there's some thought behind that, like the way that The comprehensive review is available for your review if you would like to wade into it. It's on the new official plan website at the county level. And the scale of growth that is allocated to Listowel is much greater than any of the other service settlement areas, based on historic growth rates and also the anticipation of more people coming from urban settlement areas to Listowel. The direction from the PPS refers to the planning area as a regional market area. So in our read of the PPS, we have the latitude, the planning authority has the latitude to use the population projections for the service settlement areas as guidance and not to strictly adhere to it. And as the CAO has referred to, we haven't used all of the allocation in the maps that are in the official plan now, and that is thinking that it will lend flexibility to the development community in the future. That perhaps there would be other urban areas in the county where growth has not been allocated at the same rate as Listowel, and that might serve those communities in the future.
Okay. Other questions? Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. Susanna, thanks very much for your presentation. As Councillor Andreessen said, it's with great anticipation that we've received this document in draft. So just a couple of quick questions. One, I guess, still on the theme of the county's ability to distribute growth around the county. Will there be a presentation to this council so we're aware of how that distribution is happening, as opposed to just simply looking at a map? Or each municipality, are we going to see that information, or is it just left to our county councillors?
I haven't prepared. I wasn't planning on bringing that, but a comprehensive, like a presentation for all of the settlement areas. I mean, perhaps I should have had it in this presentation, but I don't have a future.
I'm not asking for it tonight. I'm just saying this is the start of the process. Is this council and other councils going to be made aware of the distribution of growth and how that equated to the Watson distribution based on past growth and so on, and the county's responsibility to distribute that growth? Are we actually going to see that as each member council, so we understand where that distribution is happening over the course of the time?
Your direction, we can certainly come back. I don't have it prepared.
I mean, certainly I can say that in the discussions and lead up to this plan, I have seen various tables and figures that show that kind of information. I suspect if this council wants to see that information, it can be requested from the county. It's available.
Secondly, just in terms of the good work that was done for the natural environment study, and the just in terms of North Perth, is that work with the property owners, is that all completed now, or is it still in progress and waiting until the spring to finish up?
Through the Mayor, the question is the public consultation complete? Yes, the public consultation finished in October of 2023.
Okay, and then the information then has been revised and reflected in the draft plan. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, the public consultation unfolded before the official plan was received by County Council, and the thinking there was that we would incorporate all of the natural environment mapping changes. So the document that was finally received by County Council had the opportunity for everyone who had questions about the natural environment mapping on their property to have a site visit to their property in advance of the mapping coming to this stage.
Good. Yes, that was a huge project. The last question, if I may, Mayor Todd, deals specifically with the table that you showed on page 114 of the document, the housing affordability forecast by tenure. And again, I understand that's for the entire county. Is there a breakdown within North Perth in terms of what that actually means and reflects within our community, so that we could actually understand that, so that when we go to talk specifically about our desires within our municipality, especially because we do have a significant amount of municipally owned land. Are we going to be able to have that information within our context so that we can plan ahead?
Yeah, thanks for the question. This work was prepared by Watson and Associates, and I'd have to go back and look at the study. I think it's broken down by service settlement area.
It's been a while since I looked at the exact numbers, but in the Watson study on the housing needs assessment, they did break it down by municipality for us. So I can bring that forward. I think it was included in one of Jessica's reports, but we can bring that back.
So again, Mayor Todd, just as we're moving forward in the county official plan and hopefully see its adoption at county council and approval by the province, certainly this council has been very clear that it wants to have direct involvement in terms of development, perhaps, if council agrees, of municipally owned lands to help address the housing crisis within our community. And I think this table is very specific for our community, is going to help us understand what we need within our community. So that's the reason for the question, and I appreciate the good work that's been done on this, and we look forward to further conversation.
And while I don't want to be firmly committed to this number, I believe that of the 3,200 units that are on that slide, the Housing Accelerator Fund application referenced the need for about 2,400 in North Perth. So it's in that ballpark.
Thank you.
Anyone else with questions or comments at this point? All right, we have a resolution then for our consideration as follows: that North Perth Council receives the draft New Perth County official plan for information. Can I call for a mover on this? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote. With that, that is carried. Thank you. We're at 8:26. I think maybe a 8-minute break would be appropriate at this point. Sorry, Mr. Hackett, we'll make you hold on for a little bit longer. Let's reconvene at 8:34, 8:35.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we're back from our brief health break. Next up tonight is a report from the Environmental Services Department. In item 9.2.1, Council is asked to review the annual well inspection reports from our water system in North Perth. I call on North Perth Manager of Environmental Services, Mark Hackett, to present us with an overview verbally so that we can meet the usual standard of awareness by councillors. Welcome, Mr. Hackett. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg and Council. So as you mentioned there, each year I provide these well inspection reports to Council for your information. And then on an annual basis, our systems are inspected by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And this basically includes a very detailed look at everything that we do in our water systems. They look at all the testing, all the sampling results. They look at our operation and maintenance manuals, our standard operating procedures. They look at all the data that we've produced throughout the year. They do an off-site review of that data first, and then they come on-site to each of our well systems and do an on-site visit. So this year, the Molesworth, Gownstown, and Atwood system, they all received 100% score, which was great. Listowel was just behind that at 97.21%, and that was because of one issue that was noted. And that was related to how we determine when it's necessary to calibrate our online chlorine analyzers that are in each well house. And although we've been doing it the way we do it since 2009, this is the first time that actually came up that they questioned it. And so in response to that, we've amended our standard operating procedure number 11, which is the calibration of online chlorine analyzers to reflect his concerns. And then we've also, as recommended, added that all of the portable handheld units that we use to calibrate those other ones are verified on a weekly basis now. So they're checked every week to make sure. So, and there was no further action from that. And all of those inspection reports were included for your information with the report. I could take any questions if there's any about that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hackett. Colleagues, any questions or first comments on this matter? I think we're all pretty excited by the fact that we've performed extremely well and, pardon the pun, and that our water system is in good shape locally. All right, I have a resolution then to the effect of this. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives a 2023 well inspection report dated December 18th, 2023, and the attached 2023 Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks inspection reports as information. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to item 10 on our agenda. Colleagues, are there any reports that you would like to ask of our staff or of our committees? Not seeing any hands waving, so let's move to the next item then. For item 11, we have received no additional items of correspondence beyond that already shared in the consent agenda for Council's disposition. At this point, we turn to consideration of bylaws that have been recommended to us for action, and we don't have any additional ones tonight. That brings us to item 13 on our agenda. Do any councillors wish leave to give notice of motion? Okay, not seeing any hands. That brings us to item 14 on our agenda. For item 14, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? And we must always check in for our remote connected participants as well. Anyone have an announcement they would like to make? Councillor Johnston, let me just get your microphone here. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll put on my 4-H hat again as a 4-H leader, as I do several times a year. So at the conclusion of the 2023 4-H year, there is two competitions for recognition for dairy clubs to be recognized as All Ontario or All Canadian. Perth County this year had 2 animals that qualified to be in the top 6 in their age category to be nominated All Ontario, and one of those was from North Perth. It was Alan's nephew, Seth Johnston, and then we just received word today that in Now, I've been involved with Atwood Dairy, it predates me, so 50-some years of Atwood Dairy, and today was the first time we've ever had a Holstein nominated All-Canadian. And it was, once again, Alan's nephew Seth. His calf was chosen out of the top 6 in Canada for the age category for 4-H. So he received an All-Canadian nomination today. So it was the first All-Canadian for Mapleview Farms as well, who bred the animal. So that's the good news for North Perth for 4-H.
It's wonderful news. Let's have a round of applause for this. And certainly a source of pride for Councillor Rothwell, and perhaps a greater source of pride for Councillor Johnston.
No idea.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else with an announcement tonight? Very good. Let's turn to item 15 on our agenda. We do have one item to be considered in a closed session of council. I will read the resolution that enables and explains our action here. The council proceeds at 8:41 p.m. to address proceeds in camera at 8:41 p.m. to address matters pertaining to the following: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees regarding the North Perth Fire Department personnel. Can I call for mover on this? Councillor Enstedt, thank you. Councillor Richardson will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this? Let's have that vote. We're waiting on one. Can anyone spot Sarah? Councillor Blazek, we're not seeing your vote show up. What say you?
I say yes. Sorry, I voted. I don't know why it.
Okay, so please record that. And with that, that is carried. All right, that means at this point that we have exited our open session meeting, and we will reconfigure the audiovisual for the purposes of holding our closed meeting. Everyone, hold on, please. Okay, we are going to test our YouTube feed. We will await Councillor Richardson's diligent verdict on this.
We'll say closed in progress.
Okay. Okay, we have moved to item 16 on our agenda. Then I can confirm that council did discuss the matter identified in our enabling resolution for a closed session meeting of council. At this time, the outcomes of those discussions will remain confidential for the reasons described. Council, as a mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called a confirmatory bylaw. I have drafted that for item 17.1 as follows. Bylaw 8-2024, being a bylaw to confirm general and previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, is passed. Councillor Blazek, would you like to be our mover for that? And who will second that? Councillor Nordum, thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's see if eScribe is still alive. And that is carried. Councillors, we have taken action and deliberated on a range of business that came before us tonight. It's thus appropriate for us to consider adjournment. I have a resolution to that end as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 10:01 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, February 5th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Colleagues, have a good couple of weeks. We are adjourned until February 5th. Those going to Roma, enjoy the conference.